just like our Air Force community does. For the first responders, the police, firefighters, sheriffs, troopers gathered here today in memory of Dylan, thank you truly for what you do. And thank you to the Colorado Fallen Hero Foundation as well for honoring Dylan today. To Lisa, thank you for raising an incredible son. Dylan was a hero. From the air crew of the 96 Bomb Squadron, who flew the B-52 overhead today, and those of us here on the ground, we are grateful for Dylan's impact on our lives, his huge heart, and we are honored to be a part of his memorial. On that jet he loved, an American flag is being flown for you. No airman's life is ever truly memorialized through grief alone, but rather through a renewed passion for and commitment to life itself. We will all remember that these things he did so that others may live. We will carry our brother's message in our hearts throughout our service and thereafter. Thank you.
Thank you, Major. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you Arvada Police Lieutenant Paul Carroll.
Good morning. I'm the watch commander for Patrol Team 6, more affectionately known as Team No Factor, as Joe Galvez alluded to earlier. I've had the honor and privilege of being Dylan's supervisor his entire career with our department, both as his sergeant and as his lieutenant. I want to speak to you about a young man and a life well lived. Dylan is the same age as my son, and I looked at Dylan as my son. His exuberance for life was unmatched by many. His life of service began many years before, after he graduated from Ralston Valley High School and enlisted in the United States Air Force. When his time in the Air Force was up, Dylan returned home to his home city of Arvada and was hired by the Arvada Police Department. Dylan always wanted to make a difference, both in the world and in the community. By becoming an Arvada police officer was his opportunity to do just that. He wanted his life as a police officer to count for something. He succeeded far beyond even his own expectations every day he put that uniform on. He fully knew the hazards of his chosen profession, running towards danger and never from it. He took on the responsibilities of placing himself between the weak, the impaired, the innocent, and those willing to do harm. He did so with a sense of pride and purpose and compassion. I really don't know if Dylan was a religious man, but I can tell you that he lived a life that God would be proud of. There is no doubt in my mind that Dylan was in a constant state of grace with God and went through those doors into the valley of death in the early morning hours of September 11, 2022, fearing no evil because of the life that he did live, a life that all of us should strive for. One of putting family, friends, and his teammates before his own wants or needs. Dylan was a superb police officer, a consummate professional, and he was a committed teammate. Now, I can tell you, as his supervisor, a professional life with Dylan was not without plenty of laughter. We heard some of that already this morning. He could be a goofy kid at times. His teammates and myself would always bust his chops for his secret infatuation with firefighters. And no offense to our own home Arvada Fire Department, but you're most affectionately known to us as hose draggers. Dylan would literally find his way to any assist to fire or medical call in the city. The chief alluded to that. I remember when that particular call came out. I would joke with Dylan and I would say, listen, I'm tired of showing up on a fire scene and watching you polishing the rims of their vehicles. On that particular call about a fire, I think it was a dumpster fire, it was a homeless encampment that the chief alluded to. I think he honestly positioned his patrol car in such a way to get it pinned in by the Arvada fire trucks. Because that morning, Dylan called me. His sergeant was on vacation, and he says, hey, LT, it's Dylan. Now, if you know Dylan, when I used to tell him, hey, could you give me some updates when you're on a scene? From a supervisor perspective, one would think that you're going to get maybe 1, 2 top updates. No, not with Dylan. My phone would ring about every minute and 30 seconds. Hey, LT, update. He's like, my car is kind of stuck in this fire scene. I'm not going to make it to debriefing. I'm going to be here for a while. Is that okay? And I would tell him, yeah, it's okay. Make sure that once you get back to your station at Westwood, you give me a call. Let me know you're secure. But that was Dylan. But not that his teammates didn't benefit from some of that. Between his mother and his grandmother, my patrol team was well fed throughout the year. Most of those items were purely confectionery items, which some of our teammates are quite addicted to. Now we heard about his shorts. His choice of attire at defensive tactics were probably less than desired by his teammates because of those shorts. In my career in the United States Army, we used to call these shorts Ranger panties. Now I'm going to describe to you these shorts. Imagine a short that comes down only just below where your thigh would meet your hip flexor. A piece of clothing that has no business on a large man whose tan line is just above the knee. Now I want you to imagine doing crown combatives, basically Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And the scenery that his partners for that day, while in compromising control hold positions, had to deal with. That was a team no-factor arrest control. And I think some of his teammates suffer in nightmares still today from some of those training sessions. The last thing that I want to talk about in terms of Dylan and how he just brightened our day, to my right, to your left, there's a picture here of him flexing. We heard a lot about Dylan's physical fitness. He was a strong kid. But of all the body parts and all the muscle groups in the human body, let me give you an idea what Dylan's workout was. Monday, biceps, triceps. Tuesday, bicep, triceps. Wednesday, bicep, triceps. Dylan and his former sergeant, still with us, but from a previous year, are the 2 founding and only 2 members of the Bicep Tricep Club of Western Arvada. But this was Dylan. He was a man serious about his purpose in life, which was to live life to the absolute fullest. To his mom and dad, Lisa and Dan, he loved you. He loved you a lot. And it was obvious by the way he talked about you. He shared his life with all of us. He was proud of his family, proud of his grandmother. Thank you for sharing them with us. Our personal and professional lives are enriched today because of the man that you raised. I will never forget the son you gave us. I will never let our profession forget who he was, what he stood for, and the sacrifices he made for mankind. His teammates and I will always be there for you. I loved your son like he was my own son. To Megan, I'm so sorry, Megan. Dylan loved you dearly. You could see that in his mannerisms when he was around you, and we would hear that in his words when he wasn't. Team No Factor and I will always be here for you, 24 hours a day. There is always a place for you on this team, and there will always be a place for you in our hearts. To Team No Factor, TJ Weiss, Matt Raley, Ryan Freeman, Danny Garibay, Seth Ramsey, Matt Ortega, Colleen Aprikowski, Donato Santos, Matty B., or more formally known as Matthew Bloom, Maggie Krumholtz, our assigned K-9 officer, Ian Stodgill, and his K-9 partner, Bert, Sergeant Levi Martson, Sergeant Ryan Johnson. Those of you, along with me, that were with him in the early morning hours of September 11, 2022, he loved and respected all of you. Console yourself that Dylan spent his last moments in the company of you. He understood and he appreciated your desperate efforts to save him and keep him with us. But his orders from our Creator were final. He knows that his last breaths on this earth were in the arms of heroes. Team No Factor, remember this. An ancient proverb once said, "The body is healed by play, the mind is healed by laughter, and the soul is healed by joy." Dylan lived his life this way, and he would expect all of us to live our lives like this going forward. To the citizens of Arvada, heroes like Dylan are all around you. All you have to do is take a look in this room, in this sacred place. The men and women that wear this uniform are committed and they're resolute in their cause to stop evil in every dark corner of our community. They will not waver. They will not take a knee. They will not quit. Despite the labels that are placed on us at times by political leaders and community activists, they will stand shoulder to shoulder on that thin blue line to ensure peace and order in all of our lives. For without them comes chaos and a country that none of us want to live in. Remember this, the words of thank you for your service are always appreciated by each and every one of us. But those words without action are merely words. Holding our leadership and criminal justice system accountable is the only way that we're going to stop this senseless violence on our streets and against our law enforcement profession. I would like to close with a section of a speech that was given by President Theodore Roosevelt back in 1910. Many of you have probably heard this, the man in the arena. It's not the critic who counts, not the one who points out how the strong man stumbled or how the doer of deeds might have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred with sweat and dust and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, who, if he wins, knows the triumph of high achievement, and who, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. This was Dylan's life. He was the man in the arena. He chose not to sit on the sidelines and watch evil have its way with our society. Dylan, I love you, son, and I miss you. Your teammates love you, and they miss you as well. We will never forget you, Dylan. We have the watch from here. I will see you on the other side soon. Godspeed, my son. NFQ.
Thank you, Lieutenant. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you our final speaker of the day, police officer and Dylan's girlfriend, Megan Esslinger.
He's just my backup, so everyone knows. When we all take the oath, we know the risks. They tell us the possibility of being killed in the line of duty. They tell us the possibility of losing a friend and coworker. But no one ever tells you how it will be after everything settles. After you have to bury your best friend and the person you envisioned your life with. How that will feel without them or what you go through. No one tells you how that phone call hits you like a train, and all you can do is pray. I received that phone call on September 11th, 2022 at 2:15 a.m. I remember meeting you on November 10th, 2020 at the Frank DeAngelis training facility. It was my first day in pre-academy and your team was training. You and Joe Galvez were the first people to introduce yourself and tell us if we needed anything, you guys would be there. I didn't predict what would happen in the time to follow. I would see him around the station and always thought to myself how big this guy was and asked myself why his patrol shirt was always 2 sizes too small. Everyone here knows what I'm talking about. But of course, I never complained. He was a very competitive person. He always wanted to compete to see who could recover the most stolen vehicles, as we both worked out of Charlie sector and shared the same patrol car. So neither of us ever had an advantage over one another. He still always won. Dylan was a hard worker and never afraid to get after it. He loved his team and the people he worked with. He loved the job and what it meant to be a police officer. Dylan always had a warrior mentality and knew every time he stepped out of the station, he would do what needed to be done. Dylan was a hero. Team 6, also known as Team No Factor, was his family. Dylan took working for Team 6 seriously. During briefings, LT would play videos from Jocko. The videos always put people in a warrior mindset, especially Dylan. Dylan really enjoyed watching those every day because he believed that mindset was necessary to be mentally prepared for whatever came his way. I know this because he would always quote them at home or when we went to the gym. I've worked calls with Dylan, and I always admired how he was able to talk and connect with people, but always had a plan in the back of his mind in case something happened. He was an all-around great officer. To his teammates, I just want you to know how much you guys meant to him. He talked about you every day, always sharing stories when he called me on his drive home. He loved you guys, and I know you loved him. I want to thank you, all of Team 6, for looking out for him every shift. I want to thank you for doing everything you could to save him that day. Dylan was passionate about a lot of things, but the gym was at the top of the list. When Dylan and I first started dating, he warned me that he would not adjust his gym schedule for me. Right, yeah, everyone says that. Eventually, he chose to adjust his gym time so that I was able to go with him, and then we could spend more time together. The time we spent at the gym was one of my favorite parts of the day. Going to the gym with Dylan was a different experience in itself, as he often added more weight without me looking. As you can tell, right? The first time I ever did leg day with Dylan, I could barely move for a week. This makes sense if you've seen his thighs in those shorts. Before I started going to the gym with him, I would always wonder why he was there for hours, until I realized how many friends he had and how much he meant to the people at Vasa. He was loved by staff and members. The manager of our gym told me how positive he was and what a difference in people's lives he made. One of his mentors at the gym told me how amazing and remarkable of a person Dylan was and how driven he was to accomplish his goals. This mentor was helping him prepare for SWAT testing, and anyone who knows Dylan knew how hard he trained every day to make the team. Dylan trained hard in the gym because he believed in being in the best shape possible for the job. Dylan truly believed in any given day, a mentality we were taught during training. Dylan believed that he needed to train hard physically and mentally. He took range days and tactical training seriously, as he believed any given day he would need to use it. Dylan wanted to be ready not only for himself, but for his teammates to make sure everyone came home. Dylan believed the job was not about cashing a paycheck, but a brother and sisterhood that creates a different kind of bond that others do not understand. When you laugh and cry and experience the craziest calls every night with the same people, you share a life that most do not understand. Dylan loved every second of it. Being a police officer and working with people who you know have your back and will run towards anything by your side is one of the most empowering experiences a person can have. Most people in this room know that feeling. Dylan and I had a conversation about why we decided to become police officers. He told me after he lost his brother and after seeing what his family went through and what his parents went through, he wanted to try to help families before it was too late. Dylan and I also had the conversation about being killed in the line of duty. He told me he would never want to be forgotten and his name to live on for a lifetime after he passed. Dylan also asked me to look after his dog, Nemesis, if something happened. He told me the only thing he cared about was making sure his family was okay, Nemi was okay, and that I would be okay. Dylan was one of the most positive people I had ever met. He was also the best person to be around, and luckily, I was able to be around him all the time. Living together was the best. He recently bought a Traeger, and whatever he could find, he wanted to try and smoke. A lot of you here know that because he made sure to send you pictures of everything he made. Of course, smoking would take hours, and he would wake me up in the middle of the night to try it. He also loved making everything way too spicy, even though he knew his stomach would not appreciate it. Immediately after, Dylan would say his stomach hurt, which I knew meant he put way too much hot sauce on his food. We had the best time together no matter what we were doing. His laugh was infectious. He had so many different laughs, but you would know if something was really funny to him. His smile lit up a room. Whenever we were out, he would always want to dance with me, even if there was no music. We would dance at the zoo, in the middle of the street, even waiting in line for a baseball game. Those were the times he enjoyed most because all he cared about and all I cared about was that it was me and him. There are hundreds of stories of us, Dylan and his team, and Dylan's life overall. No words will ever be enough to truly capture what he meant to everyone. There isn't enough time in the world to truly express everything he meant and what an impact he had on my life and the lives around him. Your mom told me a story that I will never forget. Lisa and Dan, I promised to be a lion. Our time we had will never be long enough, and I'm not sure how to continue on without you. But I will do it. I will do it for you. I will do it for myself. I will do it for everyone in this room. Because that's what it means to be a brother and sister in blue. It's what Dylan would want. Dylan, I will continue to love you each and every day. I promise to take care of your family, and I promise to take care of Nemi. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. I love you, Dylan, always.
Well, we mentioned, of course, that there will be portions of this service that the Arvada Police Department has asked us to pull away from for a moment while the family celebrates some private moments of his life. And so while they do that, we wanted to bring back former Aurora Police Chief Nick Metz. Thank you so much for being here today. We know this is hard for you. It never gets easier, I know. And wow, what powerful tributes we have seen from those who knew him, those who loved him, his brothers and sisters in blue, his Air Force colleagues as well, and friends. Talk a little bit about that relationship. You know, we're seeing these young officers speak about him and his supervisors who felt like he was a son to them because he was so young.
Yeah. It's an amazing bond. I feel so grateful to have had that experience in my career, to have folks that I worked with day in and day out that you could come in, laugh with, have fun with, go out on the tough calls, but always know that they're going to have your back, that they're always going to be there for you. And there's a great comfort in that. Not only from the standpoint of that safety, but just that camaraderie, just knowing that, if there were times when you were down or others were down and you knew that your squad was going to be there for you. It might give you a bit of ribbing at times and make you question whether you'd ever tell them again you were having a tough time, but that was just part of the culture. I think the other thing that just really blew me away in listening to the Air Force commander was all these experiences that he had, right? I mean, just the list just kept going on and on.
Right.
And I just started imagining people watching this for the first time thinking, well, all that, why did he want to become a cop, right? And I think that just says, that's just a testament to who he was.
Yeah.
The Air Force teed him up for this job.
Right.
And I can imagine some watching this and saying, well, why would he want to go to Arvada? Because as someone put in there, Arvada raised him.
Right.
He had a commitment to that community, and you got to know with the kind of background and qualities he had, he could have gone just about anywhere and done just about anything. But he chose to go to his community that he was raised in and serve that community in the way that, it's just, I don't know, you just can't duplicate that kind of effort.
Oh, and the clear connection that he had with the community in everywhere he went, everyone he touched. Mentioned the same type of integrity and high character, his smile and laughter, his passion not only for the job, but just kind of all in everything that he did. And now we know the reason for the B-52 bomber as part of the 96 bomb squadron serving in the Middle East. And his squadron even has a patch in his honor for physical fitness, which we've heard a lot about as well.
But and the shorts. Come on, we got to talk about that.
And the shorts and the tight T-shirt. But every one of those speakers just now referred to his family directly, spoke directly to his family.
And thank them.
And thank them and talk about the symbolic gesture of this type of a service to carry on where Dylan left off.
Well, you mentioned family, and family it has so many different meanings in the responder field, right? You have the family of officers and firefighters that you work with every day, and then you have the family, the mother, the father, the spouses, all those kinds of things. And the one thing that you heard several times there is, we will always be there for you. And we take that seriously. Through Colorado Fallen now, we've just created a new position that's called a family support coordinator. And that position is going to be there for that family to help them get through these next few weeks, months, even years. Dylan's family will have an opportunity next May to go to Washington, D.C. for the unveiling of Dylan's name being placed on the National Memorial Wall. his name will be placed on the state memorial wall in May as well. And that so that gives the officers and so forth so many opportunities to continue that kind of connection to the family.
We're looking at a video here of the procession today. Beautiful tributes out there along the route. We saw people who were connected with law enforcement. We know some wives of law enforcement agents were out there lining the route. We also know strangers were out there who just wanted to show their respect and appreciation for Dylan Vakoff's service. So just an amazing morning. Of course, now during the service, there are some very special traditions. There you see the flyover that Brian mentioned.
Yeah.
Some traditions that we will see when the service here resumes. And you've gone through many of these, sadly, and we want our viewers to know what those mean and why that is so important to carry out this tribute today to Dylan Vakoff. Can you talk a little bit about, for example, the final radio call that we are going to hear today?
So again, as I said earlier, the final radio call probably became kind of a staple, if you will, for law enforcement and firefighter memorials probably in the last 10 years.